This is the Trade, Commerce, Tourism Committee. This is the 7th day of February 2012. I'm great delight to welcome the great councilman of the 15th District, which is the heart of Southern California, San Pedro, which welcomes the world to its shores.
Right.
Joe Biscano. Joe, welcome. Okay. You could call me Tom Mabangi sometime, Buscanino.
That's right.
You got it. All right, so here we are. This is our committee. Mr. Rosendahl is in flight from West Los Angeles. He reported in at Checkpoint Robertson and the Christopher Columbus Transcontinental Highway. What is the Christopher Columbus Transcontinental Highway?
The 405?
No. Wow. Anybody know?
I-10.
Oh, the
Santa Monica
I-10.
Freeway.
Okay.
Yeah. What is the Christopher Columbus Transcontinental Highway? So we do have questions during our committee, and you have to pass at least 5 of the questions in order for the committee to be complete. So you have a little challenge in front of you, Joe.
Oh boy. Okay.
All right. Madam Clerk, from the CLA's office, as a legislative analyst, please give us the first item.
Under item 1, the Board of Airport Commissioners submits for council approval the second amendment to the contract with
Can I hold
Atkinson.
the airport issues as Mr. Rosendahl is in flight? And let's go to item number 4.
Under item 4, the Board of Harbor Commissioners submits for council approval
Questions for them?
6 personal services agreements for on-call engineering services. These contracts would be with ACOM Technical, CH2M Hill Engineers, SOMAS, Moffitt & Nickel, Dean Ryan, and URS. The contract terms are the same in each of the 6 contracts, including a term of 5 years and compensation not to exceed $5 million over the 5 years per contract.
Good morning, council members. Mike Christensen, Deputy Executive Director at the Port of Los Angeles. What we have brought to you this morning is a request for approval of our next series of on-call engineering contracts that will carry us into the next big wave of capital improvements at the Port of LA, both in terms of our terminal improvements and also our waterfront improvements. We have chosen to go with this method because it does a couple things. First, it allows us to get a very broad reach of consultants, both large and small, local, with a particular emphasis on local, with a full range of services available, and also for a term of 5 years, because as we've found out, it takes about that amount of time to go through the full development process. We'll come to you with this at the inception of these contracts so that we're not coming in 2 or 3 years asking for a re-up. We're going into some exciting times at the port. We're ramping back up on our capital program. We're looking for about a $400 million capital year in 2014, and these contracts are a big part of getting us there.
And you got to add the jobs. What effect on jobs would that be?
We have
An estimate.
take a look at what we had on the jobs here. We have about 200 jobs that these immediate contracts will do per year. So every year there'll be about 200 people working on these. But these contracts leverage significantly more jobs when you look at the construction that follows and then the permanent jobs. So
I have a guesstimate when you get to council on that. Councilman of the 15th.
Yeah, thanks for the report. I also see here that the consulting agreements include a 25% small business participation requirement, which is great. But one of those, the Dean Ryan Consultants, it is a small business enterprise. Mike, explain to me how do you outreach to ensure that enough of the small businesses are applying for these types of contracts? Well, probably the first thing we do is we make our small business program mandatory. This is not a good faith effort program. This is a mandatory program, so every one of these contracts has to come to us with a plan that they can meet this requirement of the contract. If they don't do the 25%, they're in violation of the provisions of the contract. Through our contracts and purchasing division, we do a lot of direct outreach to community groups, to job fairs. We have open lines of communication. We work with the city at large on trying to find and encourage small business participation.
This is on the engineering side, but this also spills over to the construction side, which is much bigger numbers.
Just to let you know, we have a small business liaison in my office, Anna Dragon, so I respectfully ask support to include her when we're applying for looking out for these contracts as well. Again, her name is Anna Dragon, and she has the pulse on the community when it comes to small businesses, and that's all I ask. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Just want to add thing too, I know it's 25%, there's a 2% clause that I like on all contracts, because you have two hands, and two hands to put out to help people. I want to have a relationship with Long Beach State, Harbor College, Dominguez, UCLA SC, in some way or form. So somebody at those universities knows what you're doing, what you're thinking, what you're about, whether it's their environmental schools, whether it's their engineering schools, whatever the case may be, that there's some direct link. We have, 21 great institutions within 60 miles of higher learning, including community colleges. They add those in trade schools. Have some direct, when it comes to council, just a friendly amendment, they direct some opportunity here and encouragement to relate to the local schools in some way, shape, or form. You understand what I'm saying?
Yes, I did.
Okay, so how would we, Madam CLA, how would we make that friendly amendment a little more friendlier?
Well, we can make this a recommendation to the department as part of the committee report.
Let me have Joe do this. At the work of the port,
So that the work of the port includes other institutions.
Educational
Educational
institutions in Southern
institutions.
California region, specifically Harbor.
Harbor.
And the Harbor Occupation Center.
Harbor Rock,
Long
Los
Beach
Angeles,
State,
right.
Dominguez,
USC,
USC, UCLA, Loyola, anything that's within a half hour directly of the port. Let's go that way. So that there would maybe, that you would require that, let's say CH2M Hill, we want you to at least go out to, make a relationship with the engineering school so they know what the port's all about, and that there's opportunity, and we need their brains in the future to solve the problems of 2060, 70, and 80, or 40. I'm way off there.
Very well, we'll do that. And we also have and will continue to push hard on our own engineering intern programs. We do exactly, Councilman, what you had suggested. Any given summer, we could have as many as 100 interns working at the port.
Yeah, that's great.
Good
job.
Alvin Newman, the CAO's office. We concur with the port's recommendation. We recommend approval.
Great, and they don't have to spend the $5 million unless they need to spend the $5
Yes,
million.
up to $5 million over a 5-year period, and they will be on call and as needed.
And then what happens when they get to 425 and they're just sitting on it? What happens at 75 at the end of 5 years?
I think the port has a prerogative to come back to council requesting for an amendment to extend that amount, or it's my also impression that they have 6 contractors, so they have their selection of the 6
On call, so they're on the edge, so they're not left in a lurch and have to start all over again.
Yes, and the department also has stated in their report that they will continue to try to work with the other city departments to see in certain instances where they can use their personnel in certain instances.
Let me ask you, in a course of a year, how many times do we call out these engineers who are on call?
We have at any given time about 180 open work orders for capital development programs, and maybe a third of those are in design. Most of those are do have consultants working with staff on. So I probably see across my desk 200 work directives every year for various engineering services in support of our capital program. So it's quite an active process.
Okay, so ordered. Thank you.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
may I just clarify that council cannot formally amend the contracts that come from the proprietary departments? We can,
Could we encourage them?
yes,
And
we would
specifically
be
call out, have somebody
recommending.
think, Long Beach, I may be missing somebody, Trade Tech,
Harbor College.
Harbor College,
Absolutely.
Southwest, anything that's within your area sphere. If you drew between here and City Hall.
And we also, the new organization Town Marymount, and we've already reached out to them
Right.
to look at some intern opportunities.
Good, okay, so ordered by the two of us. Thank you
Right.
very much. So moved. Next item.
Thank you.
Do you want to go on to the
5.
tourism? Yes.
5. Yeah,
Under
go
item
ahead.
5, motion Perry Smith, which was introduced in September 2009, proposes that the council ask LA Inc., Film LA, and the entertainment industry to work with the CAO, the CLA, and other appropriate city departments to create a web-based information site that would be dedicated to promoting film and television-related tourism in the city of Los Angeles.
Good morning, council members. I'm Paul Audley, the president of Film LA. My recollection about this motion when it came forward in 2009 was that the concept was well supported, but we were expecting back a report through the CAO about the cost to create such an application that would be available on iPhones, recognizing that there might be substantial expense and then where that money would come from. I'm not aware if that report was ever generated and if that's your recollection as well.
Obviously, we think this is Mark Lieberman, president of LA Inc., the Los Angeles Convention and Visitors Bureau. Obviously, we think this is, something that would be great for tourists that come here. But Paul is absolutely right. We haven't seen that report, and we're very concerned about what the expense would be on doing something like this.
Patty?
No, I was just going to try and...
Introduce yourself for the record.
Oh, sorry. Patty McJennett, Senior VP with LA Inc., Convention and Visitors Bureau. I was just going to suggest what both Paul and Mark are saying is true. We've not seen any follow-up in that regard in terms of understanding the extent of the expense of that. But, perhaps we may want to enlist the help of a couple of our academic institutions.
That's what I was just going to say.
Yeah.
See,
USC.
were you listening to what I was saying before? Did you have that idea
What?
coming in the door? Did you have that idea coming in the door? You just listened?
She did.
She's good. That's it. That's the only way we're going to make it. I was thinking today, anybody know the song by the Stones, Midnight Rambler? It's a very good song, good bass line, okay? I'm thinking I'm going to get a USC student, film student, to shoot our street cleaners at night,
Nice.
Midnight Rambling,
Midnight
and create that whole image. Now, I don't know if that's just going to happen. There's opportunity to do that, and they understand the apps, and all that.
Well, and certainly USC they've always been big supporters of public art, very civic-minded. And then
Right.
UCLA has one of the biggest film libraries in the country. So
Right.
maybe...
Yeah, I don't see this.
Let me do this. I could help you. I'm sure you have relationships, but I happen to run into both the chancellor of UCLA and the president of USC in the last week, and we have relationships, so we could make a little note to say, this is a project. Councilman, I am very much about collaborations, as you are.
Right.
And the only way we're going to get out of this to make it to the next top of a mountain is through collaboration. So having that be an idea would be very good. So,
Well, I think your encouragement would be meaningful in terms of introing into either of the two schools.
Yeah, and obviously, it's important to create these partnerships in time of these city economic difficult times here. So that's something that I would approve. Obviously, it may no longer be a priority for the city to move forward in this motion, but it's important. Born, raised, and live in San Pedro, how many films that we know that we see San Pedro and Harbor area on screen and TV? I remember as a kid, Chips being filmed on 19th Street, Fantasy Island being filmed down at Ports of Call. My dad, a fisherman, calling me, Tom, he was saying, guess who's down here in the summer is Tattoo. And my mom would take me down there and just to be able to take a picture with Tattoo and the cast of Fantasy Island, I'll never forget. But, this is something that we do need to move forward, but tough city times, it's important that we do.
here's the second question. Name the movie. Top of the World, Ma. Where was it?
What was the movie?
Top of the World, Ma. Come on, everybody. You got to know this one. What? No. White Heat, Jimmy Cagney.
Oh.
Oh, it was a great movie. 1952 classic. He's in Wilmington. He's on top. One of the, he had a real strange feeling. John Eck knows this here. And there all of a sudden he had a problem, with his mom and his girlfriend and the other gangsters. And he went top of the world, Ma, and there's the scene of Cagney.
There we go.
I'll give it to you.
How often do we see the Vincent Thomas Bridge on film as
St.
well?
Vincent Thomas Bridge.
Vincent,
Bobby
sorry.
De Niro called it St. Vincent Thomas
That's
Bridge
right.
in Heat. So we got it all here. We got some work to do. What if we held this just for a month or so and let us help you try to get a meeting and and then come back with some definite commitment. I think we could do this through collaboration in some way and look what's out there and not have to cost a lot. And filming is interesting. I did meet once a guy from New Jersey, Pennsylvania, and New York, and they had big books like the carry on, and they were on Larchmont Boulevard, and they were absolutely in love with Laurel and Hardy, and they were looking for every house where the old 42 or 38 Roadster rolled off the on Windsor Boulevard, or where the stairs were, where the piano fell down. They came on tourism to see those sites. They wanted to be where those sites were.
Yeah.
And I happen to be able to give them some guidance. So I think this is a good opportunity. And so we'll talk to Ms. Perry. Is Ms. Perry's deputies here? So we'll talk to Ms. Perry just to get it discussed again, and let's elevate it again. Does that sound good?
Mr. Chair, if I may, we need to make sure that, in light of Runaway Productions, that we create more of these sites in the city of Los Angeles and not in Vancouver and not out of state. So let's keep that in mind, because we want to make sure that the productions remain here in the great city. Okay?
Of the 9 Academy Awards, only 1 was made in Los Angeles and Hollywood. That's The Artist. And if you haven't seen The Artist, see it. And it's interesting enough, some of you may be aware that there's a challenge of tourism in the Hollywood Hills because GPS puts people right in the front door of their homes trying to get to the Hollywood sign. In The Artist, anybody see The Artist at this table? There's a scene of a tourist bus coming through the Beechwood gates. So now when I go see that neighborhood, I'm going to cut that out of the film. So I'm seeing what's going on so long. So, Mark, anything else to add? Good, all right. We'll hold this for a month, and we'll work on it, and we'll come back with a stronger report. Next item, continue on tourism.
Under item 6, motion Labange Garcetti, introduced on January 6, proposes that the council ask the president of LA Inc. and the general manager of the LA Convention Center to report to this committee on the anticipated results that the city may realize as the host city of this year's International Powwow, which is an international trade show sponsored by the U.S. Travel Association and which is scheduled to take place in April of this year at the Convention Center.
As you mentioned, it is a 3-day international marketplace, and it's the largest generator of inbound travel to the United States. And this year, it will be held here from April 21st to April 25th. And I'm going to ask Patty to give you some more information on it. But I should mention that last we had this in Los Angeles was in 2003, and was very, very successful then. And we bid on it. And we were excited that it is coming back here to Los Angeles, especially because if you think that we had it in 2003 and you think about all the changes that have taken place in Los Angeles, and this gives us a tremendous opportunity to showcase LA to so many international buyers that aren't acquainted with these changes. And Patty will give you a brief overview of Powwow. I think you'll find it of interest.
Despite its unusual name, it is marked that is the #1 marketplace for selling inbound travel to the United States. We'll have a chance to have over 1,300 international tour operators. Those are the people who actually package business and sell it through travel agents, sell it through online. We'll have a chance to have them in Los Angeles and able to showcase all of LA to them. In addition, we'll have about 450 international travel journalists here, both of them coming from about 70 countries. So if we had to, you can't create an event like that. I mean, it would cost us millions and millions of dollars to try and get those people here to showcase. So during the time period, they arrive on a Saturday and Sunday, and we will be operating tours to different neighborhoods. We'll do 10 tours each day. We then on Sunday offer another set of about 10 or 12 tours to the international journalists. They'll be doing a kickoff lunch prior to that at the Natural History Museum to showcase the new dinosaur exhibit. And then through the 3 days, they are in pre-scheduled business appointments. So it's very serious business that's conducted. And then in the evening, we have an opportunity to showcase LA through networking events. So the first event will be hosted in Hollywood at Hollywood and Highland with Cirque du Soleil performances. They're going to do abbreviated performances. And the Hollywood community is really coming together to support that event. The second night will be wholly hosted by Universal Studios Hollywood, who will be debuting Transformers, which, of course, is a big attraction for LA. And I should add that Larry Kurzweil is actually our host of the planning committee. Then the closing night is going to be held downtown at the California Plaza. And we have a number of sponsors supporting that event, including the California Office of Tourism and a number of the communities within LA. So.
This is great. I'm just a little biased to my area, of course.
Yes.
But when these conventions do come, let's not forget the harbor area and the great historic Warner Grand Theater that we can clearly host an event down there for these types of conventions. Please. I know we're working down there at the harbor area, but
I think San Pedro's on the list.
Yeah,
If it's not, it will be by the end of this meeting.
No. In fact, in fact, just yesterday, I was meeting with the port, the bid, the
Great.
chamber,
Great.
and we were talking about how do we, leverage Powwow for that area.
Yes,
and
please.
we already have a tour scheduled into the San Pedro area, both for the delegates and then an additional tour scheduled for the media there.
Fantastic.
So the port's being very supportive is a big part of the whole.
Thank you.
So.
Thank you.
And as
Hi.
mentioned, we're a platinum sponsor.
Yes.
At about $50,000 level. Our cruise business is suffered a lot, and so we're really interested in a positive outcome. We've got the cleanest, greenest cruise terminal in the world right now, and we'd like to showcase that.
Great.
But with that, and the San Pedro P-Bid
Yes.
is also sponsoring about $20,000. We
Great.
got the tour, the 50 delegate tour bus
Right.
thing going, and the media tour. So we're very, very supportive of this.
And with the Iowa coming down, it's just huge news for the international community too.
And I saw the mayor on TV. I think one of those action reporters tried to catch him on about our boat in San Pedro. Is that
Angelina.
right there?
Yes.
And I think that's important.
Table that. for
That's important. No,
an agenda item. No.
David Goldstein, if you can hear my voice, I'll gladly stand and say that's an important tool for Los Angeles to promote itself, not only for the business and commerce of the harbor, but also for tourism. And David, you're welcome to come on the boat anytime. Bring your cameraman.
Yes.
Get me on the right side.
Anytime. In fact, they've had people on the boat many times.
I know, and I think that's something we had to promote, because we do have to tell us who we are.
Right.
Because everybody in the world, why they got filming outside of L.A., I believe, is people started telling who we are. And I know Paul has left, but Film L.A. and its previous thing, they would never go to the convention center when they had all the film boards from around the, they said, oh no, we don't need to tell ourselves. We got to tell our story, because this world is the jet age and beyond. You can go anywhere, so to promote is good. What I'd like to just mention, Mark, and real quick before I slip and forget, make a little 2.5, 3 minute quick video presentation or whatever the technical term is for council when we come to council. Because I want all our colleagues to know how important this is, how the numbers are, how you're trying to drive people to, you're giving them a list of neighborhoods to go and see and check out. Because a lot of people do they like the big things, but they also like to find the interesting neighborhoods. Mark, excuse me.
Thank you. I think this really also gives the airport the opportunity, as everyone is flying in, to see what had come out of the ground already and what they can expect in 2013. So we're very, very excited about that also. This is really good news.
So good. We'll schedule this for council when it's convenient for you real soon.
Okay.
Okay. This is exciting, and that's good what the port's doing. Anything else, Joe?
That's it.
All right, next item.
Okay.
Would you like to note and file the motion?
Oh, no,
or-
for the council, for note, read, and respond, and help. We're having a powwow. Okay. That's the order.
Okay, so we can adopt the motion and...
Adopt the motion,
Yes.
send it to council, have a report by LA Inc.
Okay.
Technical question for LA Inc. Is LA Inc.'s name ever get confused with LA Inc., the tattoo, because he's a tattoo guy?
Not at all. No.
Not at all, okay, good.
And we don't have any tattoos.
Yeah, I got it, okay, good. Next item.
Under item 6, motion Lavange Garcetti, introduced on January 6, proposes that the council ask the president of LA Inc. and the general manager of the LA Convention Center I'm sorry, am I reading the wrong item?
That's the one.
I'm sorry.
Okay.
Motion Labange Garcetti, introduced on January 27th, proposes that the council request LA Inc., the LA Economic Development Corporation, and the Greater LA Chamber of Commerce to report to this committee on the expected impacts on tourism resulting from President Barack Obama's recent executive order to undertake measures to facilitate and promote international travel to the United States.
You know, this, those of you who aren't acquainted with this is really very, very exciting news, and I know that the council has supported this, and what this is that because of our significance as a gateway, especially from the Pacific, this is very, very important to the city of Los Angeles. And what we're referring to is, what the President's order is referred to as establishing a visa and foreign visitor processing goals, which they haven't had before, and he has established a task force on travel and competitiveness. You know, why this is important? Because the processing of visas, especially in countries like that are so important to us, like China and Brazil, India, we have seen that it has taken people that live there almost 3 months to get visas. And now, with the establishment of this and the call for action to bring on more processing people, or I should say, more people that are working in the embassies to expedite the processing. We've even seen the processing times come down in China now at some of the embassies to about 3 weeks. And why this is so important is because if you're waiting for a visa or going to an embassy and realizing that you have to wait 3 months to get a visa, you're apt not to go to the embassy. You're apt to go to a different embassy or go to a country where there is visa waiver. At the same time, this order calls also for looking into having further visa waiver countries, with the U.S. and certain foreign countries come to an agreement on visa waiver. And the difference between this and visa processing is that to give you an example, about 2-3 years ago, the U.S. government and the South Korean government came to an agreement to have visa waiver in South Korea. And so no longer does someone in South Korea have to go to the embassy to get a visa, just like you and I today go to the airport with our passports and go to the UK, etc. They can now come directly here without going to the embassy, and we've seen a tremendous increase in the number of South Koreans coming over the last 2 years. We're hopeful that in the near future we will see visa waiver come to Brazil. And what this would allow for is we have really no nonstop flights from Brazil today into LAX. Right. And we believe that if visa waiver comes, we will start seeing a real influx of people coming.
Well, when you come, I think we're going to have this, we'll figure this out. I'd like, when this comes to council, just to tell the council members, we may have this before we talk about Powwow or after or in between, but I think this is so important. And we were just with this, the mayor was with it, and I was too, but the Secretary of Commerce, Mr. Briner, who used to be at Southern California, Edison, a local person. Tourism is real important to commerce, and this is so important. Councilman, any questions?
Yeah, I would like to ask Ellie to specifically report back on if you'd be interested in working with the port to discuss the potential benefits, not only with the port, but also the fact that identifying the cruise terminal, also the waterfront development project that we hope to see come to fruition soon, and along with recommendations on how to grow tourism in that region, along with this directive from the President.
Yeah, we definitely would be more than pleased to do that. And we've worked over the years. We worked very, very closely with the port in trying to encourage more and more, not just visitors to come to San Pedro, but of course to encourage visitors that are coming into the port on these ships, on these cruise ships, what activities are available for them when they come here, both pre and post, their vacations.
Very good. So we'll order. That's very good, and I thank the President and the Commerce Department for that. So let's go forward with that. Report to council. We'll schedule it at the appropriate time. We'll have like a tourist day.
That's right.
and the economic benefits of that. Next item.
Under item 8, motion Labange Weezer, introduced on February 1st, proposes that council ask LA Inc., the MTA, specified city departments, and the CAO to report with recommendations for restoring services of the Travelers Aid Society to Los Angeles International Airport, Union Station, and Hollywood.
Got it. And I'd like to ask LA Inc. to stand down for a moment. I want to call on a good citizen in Los Angeles who's volunteered many times. He lives on Greenbush Avenue. I worked on Greenbush Avenue once in Van Nuys about 35, 40 years ago at a print shop. Howard Fink. Where's Howard Fink? Mr. Fink, come up here. You're a good citizen. He sent an email to me and he said, I mentioned Patty, if you want to give him your chair.
Yes.
That's good. Okay. Mr. Fink is a volunteer at Travelers Aid, and there's nothing like volunteers. And I don't know the whole picture, Mr. Adams, on this issue here, but I know volunteers. And if you can't get volunteers the opportunity to volunteer, there's missing light. And if you don't have light, there's darkness. And if there's darkness, there's not happiness. So I want happiness. So we're going to have Mr. Fink speak from his heart. And I thank you. He's representing the hundreds of people who are in Travelers Aid. And if there needs to be transformation, let's start our own Travelers Aid. Mr. Fink.
Thank you, Councilman Labange. I've met you a few times as you come through the station and you shake our hands and say thank you for volunteering. I represent a group of volunteers who have been volunteering, some of them for between 15 and 20 years. I'm a newbie. I've only volunteered there for about 3 years. But in this conversation I've heard today, you're talking about tourism and people coming in. And all I'm saying is at this time, tourists coming into Union Station and they want to know where they can go for 3 hours, for a day. How do you get to Hollywood? Where's Alvarez Street? Where's Philippe's? There's nobody there to tell them. This happened because Travelers Aid, first of all, at the airport, lost its contract. Secondly, the Travelers Aid that we were working with out of Hollywood, I understand, became underfunded, and they closed up as of last month, January 31st. And I went in after that on February 1st, and I was told politely to please leave, that there was no authority for me to be there. All we, about 12, 14 of us, are asking is that this organization please lend a little pressure to somebody to sponsor us. After all, we are unpaid. We don't get health benefits. We don't get a salary. All we ask for is somebody to sponsor us, be responsible for us, make sure there's electricity in the booth, make sure that the phone works, make sure that those of us who drive in can get parking permits. Then our suggestion is, since the building is now owned by MTA or Metro,
Right.
and they have existing volunteer organization, that they pick us up.
Give you a bus pass. But anyway, we'll work on that. Mr. Fink, thank you for your comment. Did anyone else, did this gentleman come in for this? If you fill out a card, we'll have you speak right
There
now.
was one other man I think was coming, but
Well, there's a man right behind you, and he's here.
Oh, here you go.
All right, good.
I didn't see him, but
I know.
I saw it.
Come on up. I like that shirt you got on there.
All right. Thank you very much.
You betcha, Mr. Fink.
Thank you, gentlemen.
You betcha. Tell us your name.
Cy Fierst,
Hi, Cy.
and I got your photo calendar at home.
Very good, Cy. Okay.
I am a foolish man. Why? Because all we are asking, put us under the wing of Metro and fast track it so we can help the tourists. We are the face of Los Angeles for many Metro riders and tourists from all over the world, and we want it fast tracked.
Absolutely. That's why I'm here to help. And Councilman from the Great 50th is here to help too, Joe.
Right.
You want to ask any questions?
Well, I just, when my wife and I traveled last year to Cancun, we were inundated with these types of volunteers, very similar to the Travelers Aid services, and I kept asking and telling my wife, why don't we have this in L.A.? I think this is something that I support, and there's funding out there, let's be honest. It's not going to take a lot, but volunteers need to be heard. You're giving your own time. You have passion to really promote this great city, so we thank you and Mr. Fink for doing what you do.
All right, fast track it, fellas.
Got it. We're working on it. Now, just to separate it, we're going to work on MTA and Union Station, but I know LAX was involved with this. A nice thing happened to me once I was walking through. Mr. Fink, I was walking through Union Station. You'll like this, Joe, being a good boy from Mary Star of the Sea. I'm walking through, and there's a nun about 4'8", and she's walking there, and I walked up there like this, Bill. I walked up to her, and I welcomed the nun to Los Angeles. And as I welcomed her to Los Angeles, I don't usually do this. I just welcome them. But I told her my name, you know. She was 88 years old, 89 years old. This is about 7-8 years ago. She went to school with my dad at St. Agnes at Adams in Vermont. So you never know who you meet when you're helping them. And that's the wonderful thing about helping people. Let's hear from our airport department about Traveler's Aid. That may be a little different. I'm going to handle the Metro thing separately. I'm not getting in on that. But who's replaced Traveler's Aid at LAX?
Mark Adams, Los Angeles World Airports. At LAX, Traveler's Aid obviously served, as we all know, the traveling public up until the middle of last year. What happened was, over time, Traveler's Aid's administrative expense contract we had with them to reimburse them for their administrative expenses kept growing and growing and growing to the point where it was over $400,000 a year. So what we did was, when their contract ended in June, we transitioned the volunteer force from being administered by Traveler's Aid to being administered by LAWA staff. We now have a volunteer force administered by a LAWA staff person of over 300 people, and including at least two-thirds, from what I understand, of the former Traveler's Aid volunteers at LAX who are now volunteers under what we call our VIP program, or volunteer.
Do they park? How do they park, or how do you do it? They park at a remote lot and take a shuttle in, or what?
I'm not exactly sure of their parking arrangements.
You want to make it nice. If you're coming over to
I know our coordinators, make that easy for them.
Well, then I'm sure Mr. Rosendahl had something to do with that, because he's a good councilman of the 11th District.
No, our goal was not to reduce the level of service that the customers receive at LAX.
You just got rid of the administrative charge.
We're covering the administration now rather than funding travel.
Give us no more than a 3-page, it could be double space. I'm making it easy for you. Report on how you transform from the Traveler's Aid, doing the work, to LA World Airports, continuing and upgrading the work. And then we could also share that with MTA and Metro as well.
Good morning, Councilman, members. Wilbur Babb of Metro. Just want to state for the record that we've always applauded the efforts of Traveler's Aid. We know that their work is very important. As you perhaps know, that the Union Station has been under somewhat of an administrative transition with the purchase at around this time last year. There is now a joint management council with Union Station that involves also Metrolink and Amtrak. And there still needs to be a path forward mapped out to ensure that the information needs at Union Station are met. Metro staff is currently looking at the facility to determine what and where information should be made available, and will bring recommendations to the Joint Management Council within 30 days. Additionally, the Joint Management Council must make a determination on a volunteer program. While assistance is always welcome and the volunteers still appear to be willing, there's no entity to oversee the operation currently. Metro staff will explore the current volunteer organization and the opportunity to identify if there is a potential fit, and the Joint Management Council still needs to make a final determination on the...
Is your board aware of that?
Yes, they are. Yes,
so Mr. Villaraigosa is aware of it?
Yes, he is.
Oh, good. Okay, so we can work with the mayor, because I think he'd want to help out.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So you're just trying to figure out what the joint manager, who's the joint managers? Amtrak,
Metrolink, and Metro. And currently, we're also have recently put out an RFP for a property manager, and that the actual process by which the timeline of that process is we've actually had a deadline of proposals being due as of last month. We're still within a 30 to 45-day time frame to actually make a contract award. So that's also built into the whole administrative types of things that we're working through right now.
I couldn't see Art Leahy doing this to these volunteers. Even though he went to Franklin High, I just couldn't see him doing it. So you tell him that the councilman of John Marshall High is very interested in trying to help this thing out, because these are volunteers. These are people. Now, do we need to reach out from our Vera Street and have some kind of volunteer coordinator? Because all they're doing is going in that one very nice, ornate information booth, and you have nobody there.
Correct.
You know, so we're very anxious to do this, because I happen to see their good work. Over 100,000 people plus come through Union Station, and they ask a variety of questions. And now, and Mr. Rosenthal, I know, because you're on the west side, and it's a little different in your schedule that you keep doing all the work for the west side. When they come into that information booth now, and they ask the question, I want to go to City Hall and see the nicest councilman, we got trouble because Joe's in town now. I used to get that all the time. No offense, right, Bill? I got that. Hey. I got that. All right, Joe. So we're interested. We're real interested, because this is breaking hearts. This is what people do sometimes. They say, we're not going to do that anymore. And then all of a sudden, people who do well and help other people, that's what I was talking about earlier, about the hands, you know. They don't have the opportunity to help. Mark, you want to add?
You're absolutely right, and we certainly agree with you. And there's, we need to find ways to continually provide information to visitors, and if there's any way that we as an organization can assist in this,
right.
we'd more than
what
happy
you do
to
up at Hollywood Highland and other locations, you have a relationship. It's a collaboration. There's some cost, but it's not overwhelming, and people get the message. People want to be directed and welcomed. The nicest thing in the world is when you see, and I forget the fellow who was there for many years. He was a school teacher from San Gabriel Valley. He's about 6'2", and he may have went to heaven, you know. But I know he did go to heaven. But he just greeted everybody, and people remember that first impression. Just like your beautiful murals in the MTA building. I take people over just to see the murals that depict the great history of this region. There's 4 murals. And then you're greeted nicely by the security person there, and you feel welcome. So I think that's key. So we have a plan. Now it's LAX has executed their plan. You're going to look at the plan in San Pedro.
Well, the question is, do we have these services in the port facilities and the cruise terminals, Mike?
Yeah, cruise ship terminals, yeah.
And then secondly, if I may, can LA Inc. look into the possible funding for having these services at Hollywood and Highland?
We have a visitor center in Hollywood and Highland.
There, okay. You have a kiosk there in place?
That operates right on the red carpet, so, yeah.
About 1 million visitors a year, we see.
Great. Mike Christensen, Harbor. We presently don't have a traveler's aid, mainly because of the sporadic nature of the cruise ship loads. They come on the weekends, occasionally midweek, so we don't have anything there. We do have a contractor, PCST, who operates the terminal for us, and they have a good reputation for reaching out to customers. We've for the couple years running have received the award from our biggest cruise line, Princess, as being the best cruise terminal that they operate out of. So we're getting good marks, but we can definitely look into the volunteer corps involvement at the cruise terminal.
Mr. Brownlee started Los Angelinas, the ladies who wear the red jackets.
I remember that.
And there used to be, a much more number. We need to rejuvenate that, but they're welcoming ambassadors here at City Hall. Patty, I'm sorry.
No, I was just going to add to his comments that we do have a visitor kiosk as well in the cruise building. It's not staffed, but it's a do-it-yourself type assistance. And then the meeting I was at yesterday, they were also looking at supplementing that with another visitor card possibly.
And I know the crews come and go, but we know a year in advance when they come to the port, right?
That's correct.
So with that timeline, we can staff it accordingly.
Great. Well, this is good here, so we're going to send this on to council just to get that. And I want to meet with Art, tell him, I saw him yesterday at Trax. I forgot to mention it to him.
Sounds great, and I'll be sure to relay the urgency of this in the sentiment of the council as well.
And I wanted to give a hand to our volunteers, the 2 gentlemen right there. We're going to get you back at it. Okay, now we're...
Let me talk to him.
Okay, I didn't know you didn't say that. I'm sorry.
Come on up, airport
Wait a
folks.
second.
I haven't spoken.
I'm sorry, Bill.
Come on up. Don't leave. Come on up right now. Yeah, right.
I didn't know.
That's okay. Not that the airport is in my district, but that's the good morning, first of all. When I read this motion and I read the summary, the motion was submitted February 1st, which is a few days ago, and we're clearly focusing on it right now. The line that I want to get an answer from was that Travelers Aid was well known for its long-term presence at Los Angeles International Airport. Unfortunately, it was forced to close down operations at LAX as of June 30th, 2011, when $400,000 in annual funding was no longer made available by the Los Angeles World's Airport. Did you make that decision? Who made that decision to shut it down?
Well, ultimately, the Board of Airport Commissioners made
And
that
why?
decision.
What was the logic?
Well, because the $400,000 administrative fee, their administrative fee was growing every year. The services we were getting from Travelers Aid, in terms of caseworkers and such like that, were diminishing every year. And what the board decided was that we could provide the same level of administrative support using LAWA staff rather than using Travelers Aid. What we have now is what we call our Volunteer Information Professionals Program, where we have over 300 volunteers doing essentially the same function in the terminals that Travelers Aid did. And
at no additional cost?
At lower cost, because it's, the cost is within LAWA, and we have, fewer people administering the same number of volunteers. And most of the former Travelers Aid volunteers have transitioned to our volunteer program. So basically, we're running the program that Travelers Aid used to run, but we're just doing it internally now.
I see. And you were making a comment about Travelers Aid, this transfer to volunteers, saving money, doing the same function. Are you happy with that? Or not?
Well, actually, I'm with Metro. We were speaking more so in terms of the transition of the ownership of Union Station to a joint management council, and part of what Travelers Aid and their role will be determined by Metro recommendations from staff to the council, and we're still within a 30-day time frame by that determination being made.
Mm-hmm. And Mr. Martin, your leadership on this, were you part of understanding that you could do it cheaper and do it just as effectively? And was there any understanding? Huh?
It's just to clarify, LAX is doing it under their hat. Union Station was just bought by Metro with partnerships with Amtrak and Metrolink, et cetera, and now they're reestablishing it. Hopefully, we're going to put pressure on them. LA Inc. is always there to help anybody who needs help, but they're not responsible for this function.
Okay, good point. But how does LA Inc. feel as the tourism focal point about Travelers Aid, because it's all over the world and all over big cities?
Well, we're not, obviously, our main concern is providing information to anybody that comes in to this city, whether it be through Union Station, whether it be through the airport, or any other means. We need to find vehicles to provide information. So we are very, very, obviously very positive about having, whether it's called Travelers Aid or whatever, VIP service, just as long as someone is providing that information. We think right now we think that we're glad to hear that the Metro is meeting to figure out how they're going to provide that information with the thousands and thousands of people that come through Union Station. We think this is really good news for us.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Good, so we're good. Thank you all. We'll be in touch. Have a good day.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Rosendahl. I'd like to recall item number 4, please, and then we're going to do item 1 and 2. Is that correct? Recall item number 4.
At this point, you were saying that.
Go ahead.
Item 4 is the harbor contracts with 6 engineering firms for on-call services at the harbor.
I missed Dr. Williams' call. Mr. Williams, Dr. Williams, come on up. It's public comment.
Good morning, Dr. Dr. Tom Williams, LA 32 Neighborhood Council Board member from the great district of El Sereno. Congratulations on your election.
Thank you, sir.
How do you pronounce your name?
Buscaino. Just think of blue sky. Buscaino.
Buscanino. Okay. Report. Item 4. There's a lot of consultants here. It's a big contract, $30 million for a 5-year period. That's roughly 5 people full-time every working day for 5 years for each consultant. That's a sweetheart contract. What are the controls on it? Will they be reporting back to either the board or to you on an annual basis? That would be an interesting idea. There's also a matter that recently the port issued an EIR on the Southern California International Gateway project. Big project, kind of. Actually, it's rather small compared to the total harbor. One of the issues was that there's no space left within the harbor to have it. That is, on dock, not near dock, actually, not near a port as it is. One of the things that I have experience in is Hong Kong. In Hong Kong, on one berth, they moved 1 million containers a year. One berth. And that was 20 years ago. Maersk and Sealand, CSX. They're very efficient and very productive. The typical is 300,000, 500,000 in terminals in Hong Kong. Ours, not so good, because we have all sorts of complications, administrative actions. The land is there, and it would be better used for berths and for real operations rather than stacking empty containers and doing transloading, which is on its way out. So I would highly recommend that one of the consultants actually be tasked with developing an efficiency and productivity standard for the Port of LA.
Thank you very much. We had this matter earlier. Any questions? No questions, so ordered. Next item will be item number 1, please.
Under item 1, the Board of Airport Commissioners submits for council approval the second amendment to the contract with Atkinson, Andelson, Loya, Rood, and Romo, which is a contract for legal services relating to public contracts, construction-related litigation, and other legal services, all regarding the modernization efforts at LAX. The proposed amendment would extend the contract term for an additional 2 years to expire on November 4th, 2013. And the CAO, in a report to the mayor, has recommended approval of the proposed amendment.
Good morning. Timothy Daze, Assistant General Counsel for the Department of Airports.
Timothy, tell us why we should vote for this.
Well, we have, as you know, several $1 billion worth of construction going on at the airport. And this law firm is available to our staff, our legal staff, for input with regard to questions that may arise with regard to any contracting questions. And if litigation arises, they will be able to do the litigation for us that we will oversee.
And Madam CAO, you've reviewed this, and it fits within the standards?
Yes, Andrew Mills, CAO office, and we do concur with the recommendation from airports.
Mr. Rosendahl, as the district representative.
Just a comment, and just for the record, in October 2011, LAWA staff asked the board to approve a second amendment to this contract to add an additional 2 years to the term for a total contract of 6 years expiring November 4th, 2013. In October, some $200,000 original contract amount of $350,000 remained unspent, so no additional compensation authority is needed. So that's all good news.
Yes, it is.
And we like the group and extended them. They're doing it on time and everything else.
They're a wonderful law firm. As a matter of fact, we are actually going to go out for a RFP for additional counsel because our other counsel that we had has a conflict now with the city and has resigned.
Great. I think it's great.
This is effective. This is good.
No questions.
All right, no questions. So ordered.
Thank you.
Board of Council. Next item.
Under item 2, the Board of Airport Commissioners submits for council approval the Fifth Amendment to the concession agreement with Lenlin Limited, also doing business as ICE Currency Services. This is a concession agreement for currency exchange and business center services at LAX and at LA Ontario International Airport. The proposed amendment, among several revisions, would extend the term for an additional 3 years to expire on February 28, 2015, and would reset the minimum annual guarantee at the same levels previously established under the Fourth Amendment, totaling $19.4 million over the next 3 years.
So, yeah, tell me your full name again.
My name's Steve Martin from Los Angeles World Airport.
Steve.
Yeah.
Right, Steve. Okay, so we're ready to go with this. Give us a little brief.
This contract's being extended for 3 years as proposed. It will have a 30-day termination clause for us after the first year. The only reason for the extension is we are not at this time able to identify the sites in each of the terminals where currency exchange will be in the future because of the concessions moving around.
With the cell phones, it just killed the hotel business phone. Remember they used to throw the phones up?
Yeah.
With plastic cards now, how has it killed currency exchange?
Actually, one of our concerns when we do rebid this is whether or not we will get the kind of revenue that we currently get out of the contract, which was put out to competitive process 10 years ago when ATMs and other ways of getting currency were not available. And so we're actually concerned when we resubmit this for competition that we may not do as well as we've done in the past financially.
Right.
But there's still a service requirement when people emerge from customs
Sure.
and immigration. And some people coming from foreign countries don't have an ATM card that will work in the machines.
Right.
So there's still a need for the service when people exit customs and immigration to get currency exchange so they can do their initial business in the city.
Very good. Mr. Roosevelt.
Yeah, obviously, one of the first things I do when I go to a foreign country is find out the exchange rates, what's going on, and then for convenience sake, I'll get some at the airport, and then I'll get into the community and see what happens next. My concern, frankly, is something I think you did, but I'd like to hear on the record why, is the currency exchange operation at Ontario. I'm a believer that Ontario is underutilized. The airlines need to have nonstop, direct, frequent, and discounted flights out of Ontario. There's a huge inland empire. There's Orange County. There's Ventura. We don't all have to schlep to LAX. It's not LAX, it's Ontario and LAX are the multiplier effect for the LA metro area. I strongly believe that. But it appears you've taken that exchange system out. Is that because we have no more international flights coming there?
I believe we have one international arrival a day from Mexico City, I think it is. And staffing the currency exchange full-time to accommodate that one flight is actually not cost-effective. And so until we get to a higher level of international flights, we have two challenges. One is services for international travelers, but also customs and immigration staffing is a challenge at Ontario because there isn't a critical mass to staff up the arrivals facilities by the federal government. So it's an ongoing challenge that absent, a continuous flow of, passengers in the immigration hall, it's really we're not able to provide all the services we'd like to provide.
Well, it's almost like a spiral down, to be candid with you. I believe Ontario could be more effectively managed by us. It could have a more robust, and I wouldn't blame it just on the economy. And this is another example of something that worked, even though I think the airlines should have direct flights, international flights, more than just one a day. But it just adds to the gloom factor that, frankly, I don't believe Ontario should have. This is a region of 25 million people, and it should continue to be there and find a way to bring in more international flights. Be it as it may, I just want to go on the record and say.
Okay,
May I just comment? I spoke with LAWA staff yesterday and was told that you are operating at LA on.
Someone fixed it and I didn't know it.
That's what I was told by Dave
Currency
Jones.
exchange. The currency exchange is operating? Okay.
At LAX?
At Ontario.
At Ontario.
It is.
Yeah.
No, it's very good.
Someone fixed it and I didn't.
Good job.
Oh, they fixed it, so it's happening. Thank you.
Thank you.
For the record, Mr. Roosevelt, I went
I appreciate it.
in the afternoon by car to San Diego for a function last night in San Diego, and everybody in San Diego who goes out somewhere in the world has to come to Los Angeles.
That's right.
There's no international flights there because their airport is like right down there, and there's the zoo, and there's the Balboa Park. It's so tight. That all being said, that's Southern California. Joe has
So I
something.
understand this is the Fifth Amendment since the awarding of the contract. Is there a reason why the airport's not going to rebid this?
Well, the First Amendment was an exercise of an option, or two options that we had. This amendment is solely because right now, there's a lot of construction and concessions moving around.
Oh, okay. I think you mentioned that earlier.
We can't identify for a competitive process where the currency exchanges will be located at this time.
Makes
We
sense.
expect to do that within a year.
So I foresee one of these kiosks in the new Tom Bradley terminal once it's done.
You'll see more than one.
Very good.
Yep.
Thank you.
Now, there's a technical question. I know there's somebody in the tower for air control and safety of planes in and out. By the way, this morning, well past the 6 a.m., the flights were taking off into the city and still landing over the ocean because the winds were pretty heavy.
Yes.
As I viewed from Griffith Park, looking down at the lights, it's very majestic. But there's a tower for where they said, but where's the tower where the person with the hand counter says, all right, here's Lufthansa 451 coming in from Frankfurt. Where's the scale that you weigh the plane? And how much it is, so they pay out. What's it average? So let's say, tell me, what's Lufthansa 451 or whatever coming from Frankfurt? What do they cost to land? What does it pay the airport average?
A large airplane like an international flight probably pays $3,200 or $3,500 in landing fees just to land the airplane.
Do we charge them to take off?
No, there's not a takeoff charge.
Uh-huh.
It's levied on the arrival.
Right, like a double there.
I believe the number's between $3,000 and $4,000.
So a 747, probably about 3,200. What's a little JetBlue or
A JetBlue is probably in the 2,000 range.
Yeah.
It is a weight-based fee based on the certificated maximum capacity of the airplane, whether it's full or not.
Whether it's full or not. So it's not, one flight is not fluctuate if it's full or not.
It has nothing to do with
Me
it.
too.
It's actually on the plane. There's a published, for each aircraft, there's a published weight.
So how many planes land in LAX a day average?
I believe the number's 600.
600, and so if it's like 2,000, who's a CAO? 2,000 times 600, what's that? I know. Well, someone can figure out, who's got a phone? So where's Johnny when we need him there, Mr. Roosevelt?
I agree.
Okay. All right, so this is good. Well, thank you. We're going to recommend approval. You're okay on that? So ordered. I'd like to call, yes?
Just one more item.
Okay, one more item.
Yes.
Yes. Item number
Did you
3.
want to go on to item 3?
Yes.
All right. The Board of Airport Commissioners submits for council approval the First Amendment to the contract with Sprint Communications Company for the purchase of cellular services and equipment for wireless voice and data services. Through this contract, LAWA has joined in a master contract between the U.S. General Services Administration and Sprint, and thereby is able to take advantage of volume discounts that have been negotiated between the GSA and Sprint. The proposed amendment would extend the term of LAWA's contract by 4 years, expiring on April 5th, 2016, and thereby would coincide with the expiration of the GSA's contract with Sprint. The amendment also would increase the spending authority not to exceed approximately $1.5 million over the next 4 years. And the CAO, in a report to the mayor, has recommended approval of the proposed contract amendment.
Thank you very much. And can you explain, what will this contract do?
Nathan Look, Los Angeles World Airports. This contract, because of the GSA discount we're getting, we're basically saving about 24% off of the published rates, and we're also saving 25% off of any sort of materials we would buy from Sprint.
From Sprint. And it's not including Wi-Fi?
No, it's not including.
Okay. Madam CAO?
Yes, we do recommend approval of this proposed contract. Will allow the airports to receive cellular service and equipment for wireless, the voice, walkie-talkie, push-to-talk, and data services and equipment that they need for security, safety, and business communications at LAX.
Yeah, it's a no-brainer to move forward with it, but why don't do we have Wi-Fi at the airport now?
We do have Wi-Fi through T-Mobile right now.
You got to pay for it.
Correct.
Through the entire airport complex?
Not through the entire airport complex.
Why not?
The way it's set up right now is we have it primarily through in the passenger departure areas and in some of the arrival areas also.
How can you improve that so it's universal, and how can it be cheap, for free, as sort of an added incentive that LAX has? A lot of airports do that around the planet.
You charge $8 to use Wi-Fi, and I'm not a Wi-Fi guy, but I don't like people taking $8 for something that Starbucks gives for free.
We are working on 2 different methods of getting to free Wi-Fi at LAX and also getting free Wi-Fi at Ontario. I think we'll get the free Wi-Fi at Ontario faster than we'll get the free Wi-Fi at LAX, actually.
I like the headline on that, please. Thank you. In the Inland Empire News.
And so we're working on two different methods. One is LAWA would provide the free Wi-Fi, and we're also trying to do it through a sponsorship so that we can provide higher capacity and a little bit better service. So I think we'll have a better idea of when we will actually have free Wi-Fi within the next 60 days.
Could we get a report?
Yeah.
Well, I put a motion in on Friday, calling on LAX to do Wi-Fi. 'cause I was
This is, if I may, Chair,
flabbergasted.
it seems like
Yeah.
we're behind the curve when it comes to technology compared to other airports worldwide. It's our turn.
There are two challenges. One is we have a contract with T-Mobile where they pay us for the privilege of being the Wi-Fi provider, and they charge passengers for that. We need to have that contract end, and we're working towards that. But also we need, one of the issues, and Nathan can talk to this if necessary, once you make it free, the demand on the system goes way up.
Sure.
And the system that's in the airport today can't take that demand because it's a pay system. So one of the things we're trying to figure out is to make sure we have the capacity in the system once it's free so that people don't get free Wi-Fi that's lousy. Because that is certainly a scenario once it's free that the demand could swamp the system and nobody's getting any service. So one of the things we're trying to do is manage our way towards a free system that has a high level of service.
You figure it out.
Let's also think of public safety as well when it comes to providing our visitors the ability to get free Wi-Fi as well.
Yeah, the cellular coverage is pretty good. The Wi-Fi is only for pay.
Okay, no other questions, Mr.
I just
Roosevelt?
want to make sure that we get a report back on this. I believe strongly, and as I could see my colleagues do, it's unanimous. We'd like to see free Wi-Fi and make that an incentive for people and do it right and everywhere that we could have. I would even put one over there in Van Nuys to make that accessible for people there that are getting their act together.
Well, the lounge is free over there at, beautiful paintings.
Yeah.
What we're going to do is that motion we put in is going to be in the next meeting. So on this contract amendment, though, we want to go forward, right, CAO?
Yeah.
Yes. Thank you so much. So with that being said, any objections to this item?
I just need to add one item for the record, in that basically, we had asked to the CAO report that they had that we had increased the contract by $1 million. We've actually decreased that to $970,000 for the increase. So just so it's on the record.
Where did the other 30,000 go? All right, so ordered. All right, that completes the agenda.
Yeah, let me just make an announcement.
Before you do public comment, we have one card, Dr. Williams.
Yeah, the court.
Dr. Williams. Dr. Williams is not here, so public comment has.
Okay,
completed.
the court just ruled that Prop 8 is unconstitutional. I mean, what happened there, and so it's a big victory for gays and lesbians.
Well, congratulations, thank you very much. They had it before 10 o'clock, we've been on the court.